such a phenomenal football player.
This one is for John.
Dobrodošli u Nuggetsa Srbija. Danas ćemo imati još jednu epizodu sa specijalnim gostom iz DNVR-a gdje ćemo diskutovati o draftu i mladim igračima. Prvo da počnemo, teo sam samo da napravim uvod na srpskom, da vam se zahvalim na razumevanju što ste sa nama, iako ćemo skačkati na engleski u toku ove off sezone, ali ovo nam je prilika da dobijemo dobre goste dok sezona nije počela i dok naš fokus također ne pređe na skrozne utakmice, tako da sa tim preći ćemo na engleski i našeg gosta. So welcome everybody. Let's extend our warm welcome to our special guest. He's a great staff writer on DNVR Sports. He's a charismatic presence on the DNVR podcast network and a relatively new diehard Nuggets fan, as most of us are in Serbia. He's kind of in the same boat. So Brendan Vogt, welcome Brendan. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm stoked to be here, guys. Thanks for. I got nervous for a second there that we were going to do this whole podcast in Serbian, and I was going to say I did not do my homework. I downloaded Rosetta Stone, but I haven't quite learned the language yet. No, I'm excited to be here, though, guys.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Air horns. There it is.
There it is. And also, of course, with us we have Milan. I think you're in Belgrade right now, right?
Yep. I'm in Belgrade.
And we have Mislav, who's in one of the four studios there.
Yeah, Slavonski Brod. And this air horn will probably be the only thing how will I contribute to this podcast. So.
Oh no, we have some general topics.
Great stuff, brother.
Okay, bye.
We have some general topics that we'll talk about more than just specific players, but we definitely want to hear about Brendan because he's doing a coverage on the NBA 2020 draft, and he's got some great pieces. But first, to get to our audience to get to know you, if the ones that don't, I was thinking recently, so you might be the most relatable presence, a journalist that covers the Nuggets to us Serbians, because we both kind of, as I said, we're kind of in the same boat with the Denver. Diehard fandom. Like we kind of came in with Jokic, and was it at around the time that you kind of came in with him and Gary Harris, maybe the year
Absolutely,
before?
That's right.
So yeah, what was your journey to Denver? Like, what did you start? How did you get into all this?
Oh man, it's a complicated beginning. I mean, to sum it up, I started the way I think a lot of people that listen to Adam Mars and Harrison Wind approach it right now. I mean, I was just listening to those guys. I lived in Los Angeles. I was working in Hollywood. Big basketball fan, had recently turned my attention to the Nuggets, just kind of perusing with League Pass. Right when Jokic began starting, that was December, was it 2016,
yeah.
right?
16, yeah.
So good timing there, and I just loved the team. So, as a lot of you guys did, when I started Googling Nuggets, Adam's name came up, TJ Harrison. So these podcasts filled my lunch break. They were like the way I thought, filled my time outside of work. Pretty shortly after that, I was doing that instead of work, getting in trouble with my boss, and just kind of like getting into the idea of watching as much basketball as I can. Started blogging a little, and eventually it just TJ reached out to me on Twitter. A couple other guys did and said, there's a path to you covering this team. So I made the move, kind of a leap of faith. But it worked out. I made the right connections. Harrison and Adam and all those guys and. Man, sometimes I still pinch myself when I realize I get to do this for a living every day. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely. I mean, obviously for us, it's still like a side hobby and stuff. But that's a great story because I mean, those and you can kind of see the charisma in those podcasts you guys do, and we had Adam here and Eric, and they're very great people. So it's not surprising that you guys clicked. And
we're real that dynamic. We hope it shines through because. I mean, that's really how we treat each other, and those guys, it's a real friendship and it's something more than coworkers, which this job, I mean, we're lucky we cover a really fun team in the Nuggets, but I mean, I try to think about doing this job if we covered, say, the Cavaliers, 82 games a season, and my coworkers were these like kind of old school journalists who I couldn't hang out with and kick it with and joke and laugh, That's not a shot at journalism. It's just we kind of have a different approach and it's jovial and sort of like there's a group thing, and without it, like, you know, I don't think it would be nearly the same gig, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I hope I can, Milan and Misla, I can speak, like, it's kind of what I feel with you guys is, like, we become friends, like, we just, you know, 4 random people that kind of met online and started doing this, and it turned out to be, like, a very fun, and we all, you know, we have conversations every day and just, you know, joke all the time, and it's kind of that when you get into that community, it's like you can be as different as you want, but that one thing that connects you, it's such a cool thing.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that's missing is we can actually see each other in person. Beside me and Miroslav see each other on coffees and some.
Well, neither can we right now, for what it's worth. So.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, that's the you know the beauty of the technology too is.
I still think that most of us are like some kind of Twitter bots, you know. Until I meet them in person, I will not believe they are real.
All right, so yeah, well, this is a great introduction, and like that's why I wanted to have you on here because like you're very like relaxed and just present, and you know I know it's going to be a fun show. And so for today's topics, yeah, we'll be coming up on it's the upcoming draft. It's on November 18th, and surprisingly we have a league coming on really soon, hopefully right after. Which I mean, hopefully honestly for their sake with finances and everything. So the first, we're going to talk about also what could be some of the names that Nuggets can do, and we'll start with obviously to increase their championship chances and everything. We'll start off with first just some general topics of what do you guys even think that the Nuggets should do, because there's we saw Drew Holiday is up for grabs now for New Orleans in some way. So do you think they should maybe they should keep the 22nd pick, because that's kind of what from this not as a strong draft. So like I don't think there's many perks of them trading up or maybe even trading down, but it's kind of the sweet spot is that 22 spot for their role players that they might need. Or do you think they should just maybe completely trade off out of this draft and maybe wait for next year, where supposedly that's the big talent is coming from, and and then or maybe attach this pick to a trade? We said Drew Holiday. Maybe there's some other players that that are going to come. So Brendan, we'll start with you. What do you think that they should? Assuming we're going to talk about the draft as in like if they're going to keep the pick, but what do you think that might be the smarter move to do for Denver at this point?
Yeah, I mean, look, as far as the Drew Holiday possibility goes, we talked about this on the DNVR show. I think if you can get this done with a couple of picks, maybe Gary and Monte, you should. You should. I just think it's time. I think if you could bring the 4 pieces of that starting lineup back, I'm including Jeremy Grant in there, obviously, and add a player of Holiday's quality, everyone, I think, would agree you're a considerably better team than the year prior. Does it make you the favorites? No. But it's going to be really hard to get to that mantle anyway. And I think it would make you more competitive. And I think it would make you more versatile, too, in terms of like what matchups you would feel comfortable in. Look, Gary's an incredible defender, and I think that's everyone's hesitation. I mean, Drew's really good, and he's a little more versatile, too. He's bigger. He can guard bigger guys. He probably wouldn't disappear in that Lakers series the way Gary did. Which sounds like a shot. I mean, it's really more of a matchup issue. It's not necessarily his fault, but that's how this stuff shakes out. And then also, Drew can handle the ball. So the idea of having a guard in there that's a defensive stud that doesn't detract from your offense the way at times Torrey Craig or Gary Harris have, I mean, that's very appealing, and I think it's something Denver will have to consider. I don't know if there's a wrong answer here. I think there are good options at 22. There are better drafts to come, but there are probably some NBA quality role players to be picked up in the late first round. So, good option to have, good problem to have, I should say. If it comes down to the Drew trade, though, I would include this pick for what it's worth.
Yeah, we saw. We'll ask you guys that same question. I would just add, like, we saw how New Orleans played against Portland that series when Rondo and Drew were 2 combo guards that kind of shut down Lillard and McCollum, and this is what you hope, because we saw Jamal really, improve on defense. So you imagine if you pair him up with Drew Holiday, that might actually be a really good. It's kind of like maybe like a Jokic paired up with Millsap. When Millsap came in, that unlocked Jokic's defense even more. Maybe if Drew comes in and gets paired with Jamal, it unlocks his defense even more. So what do you guys think? Like, what do you think they should do, Milan and Mislav? Milan, we'll start with you. You said you agreed, right?
Yeah, I agree, because if Denver intend to keep, for example, MPJ and Ball in the team, that 22nd pick would be wasted, in my opinion. That player who comes to Denver will not have any minutes to play. Denver don't have a G League team, so it's much better. It's much better idea to use him as a trade chip. And it's time. Definitely it's time. You and me agree on Drew Holiday and one more big player if that is possible. But it will be really hard. Jalen Brown. Me and Voya talk about Jalen Brown. We would really love to bring him to Denver.
Oh, that would be that would be a pipe dream a little bit, but that would be awesome. Yeah.
We kind of were on our like draft show, and we just kind of spitball some interesting drafts. Like one of mine was the only one of mine that I suggested was. I would even include MPJ in that and just get a ready player at 23 and get that, essentially try to get that ring right away. It would be like us skipping step, like the last step, if you want to include MPJ.
So for me, definitely that pick should be used as a trade chip.
What do you think, Miss Love?
Utah Jazz, they need a third star. We drafted 2 of them. They need a third one. Just give them the 22nd pick, and we just need to tell them, guys, don't worry, we'll take care of this. Let us choose the third star for you, and give us anything you want. They should give us anything we want that's not Gobert or Donovan Mitchell. So I'm guessing they can give us Ingles. I would be happy with Ingles.
Or Jordan Clarkson, maybe.
He wouldn't work with us. I need my Aussie man Ingles for the third star. I don't know who that player gonna be, but it's gonna be a star definitely if Nuggets choose for Utah.
Man, this is you bringing us down now. All right, so now let's assume that they're gonna keep this pick and they're gonna be in this draft. And so look, we're gonna start with what do you think the first skill set and like the type of player the Nuggets need to look at in the upcoming draft, because we have a few options that they can do in all this.
I mean, I'm generally for taking the best player available. I mean, even if they can't crack the rotation in Denver, you keep that asset train moving, right? So maybe you're that much more willing to part with another future first or Bowl in a future deal, because you like the guy you have at the end of the bench, G League or not. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, so the couple options that I was thinking about too, just like you can have. The problem is obviously that we don't know what's going on in their front office. There's if they have a deal already in some package that they think about maybe sending Bowl, because it's we saw Bowl in their seeding games. Like I think he's drawing interest from some teams as maybe a cute add-on to some to Gary or to Barton. So if that's in the book, cooking in the background, then I can see them picking like a player that's that can be developed, and not even cracking the rotation now, but at least there's some ways to go. And
right, I think the obvious name and example. Sorry to cut you off, but like Poku, I think is the guy everyone has circled, right, as more of a project, and we know Tim Connolly loves a project, and they're willing to sort of take the longer road. So I think it's okay to add a guy like that, considering the sort of asset train dynamic. I do think, not sort of reporting anything, but just a general sense I get, I would think the Nuggets are looking at a guard or a big here. The guards, there's a deceiving aspect where it looks like they're full at guard now. Of course, Monte could be included on a deal. There's a contract coming up. There's a lot of talk. Maybe it's just from the fans for now, but there's a lot of talk about Gary Harrison trades. So who knows what Will Barton's health is. So all of a sudden there could be options, or I should say slots available at guard. And then big, I mean, I think if you can really just feel confident that you've drafted someone you can play as a backup center late in the first round, that's not sort of a bad approach. This doesn't necessarily have to be someone you go out and spend money on or get in free agency. There are guys in this draft who, at least in a pinch right away, but also 2-3 years down the line, could just fill that backup 5. I think Tillman's a name a lot of guys have looked at. And maybe the draft is your route to sort of fill that hole.
Yeah, that's. I mean, obviously, you said I was going to mention obviously Poku, and we're going to talk about him and Tillman, and that's kind of going to be the meat of our show. That's the kind of the point, I guess. What I'm trying to make. Again, we don't have all the answers. It's one of the reasons that usually off seasons are like not my favorite time of the year to like talk about basketball at all, because it's a lot of you just speculate and guess what they're going to do. Again, Monte, like they can get a guard. There's a lot of guards they're talked about in this draft. They're really playoff ready. There's a guy I think from San Diego State. Some of these guys that if they already are thinking about moving Monte because of the contract, they don't have a PJ Dozier as their backup. Then that drafted guy can come in right away. That's the issue of like we don't know because of all this like flipped up off season that we have no clue essentially that it's all really fast. Like free agency is going to come the day after the draft. And now we can just talk about just what could be interesting. And Milan, what do you think? The type of player that they want to get, because we talked about Poku. Is that we'll talk about him later too. Of there's a project and there's a ready player. So and then also type. There's a big, maybe a small forward, a guard. What do you think in that way? Like Denver should be looking at primarily.
for player ready. For the start of the next season. That I agree with Brendan. It would be Denver needs shooting, and they will need rebounding, because if Plumlee go and Millsap, I don't think what will happen with Millsap. If we lose that two players, we definitely need some player to rebound the ball. So, in my opinion, that's the two most important things Denver need to sort out.
Yeah,
it's easy.
Yeah. I mean, of course, like it's. Obviously, like I always go back with those kind of things, especially we'll I guess again we'll talk about some of the ready ones, some of the projects. Like for me, I always go back to when I look at CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard, how they came into the league, and obviously like Doncic is a species of his own because coming in from Europe. But again, is equivalently Doncic went 4 years into a very high end high program college and then came into the NBA player ready, and you see a difference. Like Lillard was 4 years, even though it was a smaller college. He grew. He like built, got into his form. Mentally it's very different when you're 18 and 22. You're coming into the league. I was always a proponent of either it's a one and done because the players, or just straight out of high school because the player is so ready, or at least 3 years in college because it makes a big difference. Because when they come into the league, you're not guessing. You're not guessing about players that they're ready.
Especially if you're a team in Denver's position who at this point is really looking to sort of fill in cracks rather than get stars. I mean, it's funny how we in the modern sort of evaluation era we do. I mean, I'm looking at these scouting reports and some of the knocks on guys is draft age, that they're too old. And I think maybe that matters if you're looking for like a young home run pick or something up front in the lottery. But you think that the obvious example here in the Denver context is Monte Morris, who if you had paid a lick of attention to his college career or even just read a single scouting report that offseason, you would know, well, of course that guy's going to be able to play in the NBA. That's a tailor-made backup point guard ready to go 4 years later with some NCAA records under his belt. And that becomes a sort of safer pick in the second. And it's funny to think about all the sort of archetypes that teams whiffed on before a guy like Monte is considered.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, exactly. I've literally, my notes is Monte and Gary coming out, and an MPJ on the other hand, of which, again, Nuggets have proven at this point. Well, obviously, MPJ is a little like jury's still out, but it's working out to a point that, they got to the Western Conference Finals. And again, Monte was a late second rounder, and like what you said, I followed him in college because I don't know why, they were so fun to watch, and just kind of gravitated towards that Iowa State team. Gary as well, it's in my conference. Like I've seen some of his games, and they're when you have that pedigree of like specific, Hoiberg was in Iowa State. He put out a lot of NBA players. Well, rarely anyone was one and done, and that's cool. Like Gonzaga, like typically if they're gonna put out a NBA player, it's rarely going to be a Zach Collins. It's the only one I think that was a one and done. So again, I think in this case, like my opinion is that Denver should get a ready player because they already have an MPJ that's a high variable. He can pan out really well, or he might be he's young, and we talked about his deficiencies. I'm not going to go back on his mental stuff that he has some lapses in scheme wise, but he might not turn out. So you don't want to add another project on top of a couple of that you already have, because that might backfire. Especially with Jamal and Jokic locked in as their max players, and Grant coming in with probably a sizable contract coming in, as you want to build on top of those three players as your pillars, and adding another project just again, if they don't pan out, it might be a backfire, and you set yourself back a year instead of going forward.
Maybe. I mean, the other perspective on that is if this guy's not going to play right away anyway. I mean, a hit on 22 can be a very quality rotation player. I mean, you want to get this right, but if you miss out on this, I don't know if you've necessarily gone backwards. I mean, to your point, Voya, Jaden McDaniels, right? They sort of the project kid out of Washington. I don't know if I would go near that right now with Denver. It would feel a little redundant as you're sort of trying to work the Bulls and the MPJs into it. Poku, I think, is a little different because it's just going to take a little while anyway. And then it's also a situation that you would feel comfortable, that he would feel comfortable in. So it's a little different, but I see your point.
Yeah, Mislav, I wasn't gonna let you get out of this one without answering. So what do you think? What's the better choice for Denver in this case?
Okay, I need some help from the audience. Okay, so last time we had 22nd pick. It was Kenneth Farid in, I don't know what, 2011 or something like that, and he was the third rookie of the year in voting. So I would honestly be happy if we get a player that's like Kenneth Farid, but maybe with a better outside shot. If we don't trade the pick, I would like to have an energy guy from the bench. Like Montrezl Harrell. He's in Clippers, although he thinks he's more important than that. But yeah, I need an energy guy from the bench just to dunk and create a great atmosphere in front of the virtual fans, of course.
Yeah, I mean that's again, that's an option. We have some players that are, I think, Brendan, right? We have on 22 that there could be some of those options that we might. Okay, we talked.
Precious, maybe Precious Achiuwa, I guess, is the first guy I would think.
Yeah, I thought about him. So we already started. We kind of segued our own way into some of the names. Obviously, I got to mention, because we have some comments for Mislav. We want Corey Brewer. That's the point. That was one of his guys to come back on the team. We had some gag picks and.
Hey, it's not gag pick. I explained my desires promptly. We need him to be a vet leader from the bench, and because we will not have money to pay anybody else.
There you go. Yeah, see, you got to think realistically. I'm with you. I'm on the Corey Brewer bandwagon.
Oh,
let's
damn.
See what we
let's
can
start
do.
this. Yeah, let's start this.
We need him also to put Will Barton in his place. Will Barton was perfect replacement for Corey Brewer, and he's trying to get into the starting lineup. That's not your place. You try from the bench. Accept it. Embrace it. Okay. Thank you.
Oh yeah, so it's always hard to continue after he does the thing, and you're kind of trying to be serious after.
Yeah, it's like when we toss it to Eric.
Yeah,
Yeah, he is an our Eric. Definitely.
Yeah, Eric called me Eric of Nuggetsa Srbija podcast. And
yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I can see it already.
And you see, and this shit, it looks like I have a cleavage. I need to speak with my Eric. I don't want a cleavage.
Yeah, we'll send you a better one, man, because we gotta have you repping
I'm
the product
waiting
strong.
for Somber Shuffle in the mail order, so it's getting there. And
Yeah,
do you want to guess who is Brendan Vogt of Srbija podcast?
Oh, I can't answer that. That's for you guys.
I don't know if we have one. He's too unique.
Yeah.
But this guy could pass. Eric called him the Brendan of Nuggetsa Srbija.
I like it. Yeah, that's good company.
Definitely,
I'll take
of
it.
all of us, because you're the one that can bring out the heat in your in your podcast.
Please.
Like you can be really critical when you have to, like, very readily.
Yeah, that's me, definitely.
So that's Milan for us. Like,
I didn't know that was my
brings
reputation. That's good to know, though. That's good to know.
I mean, it's not really.
That's
I don't know
great
if it's
reputation.
reputation. Just kind of popped into my head now. Is like you kind of there is you can criticize players when they need to. Like obviously in the playoffs with the Utah, like that was a big one. So we have Milan. Milan was our. You should have listened to those. Those were like poetic when he gets on the tirade about Millsap and Plumlee and yep.
Wait, this guy. No, I need to show. Okay, this guy is Harrison Wind of our podcast.
Yeah, that got that. Very reasonable, very calm, got a lot of information. He's just gonna play it straight.
I'll wear that badge proudly.
There you
And
go.
of course, Miroslav is the poor man's Adam Mares.
Now you guys just gotta give away his car on Twitter. They love
See,
that.
that's what we have a comment, and this is what I didn't want to, like, I meant this, but, like, I just said too unique, so, like, yeah, we guys are too ugly to be used, so.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
So, okay, let's get back on track somehow. We mentioned, so we can start with, obviously with the elephant in the room is, we talked about Poku, you mentioned him, and, about Nuggets picking projects, and so the first thing is obviously, well, let's start with you. Should they pick him at 22 if he's available?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a reason not to. I think we've sort of outlined that there is a take here, a reasonable perspective that there's nothing wrong with taking a project. As far as the things you can't know about Euros in terms of how they'll step into this environment and how comfortable they'll be in a new setting, Euros is such a broad term. I mean, it's like foreign players, right? I mean, we're very American centric with that evaluation. But how comfortable will they be in their early years in the NBA? And I think there's obvious reasons to look at the Nuggets locker room and roster and situation in the league and say this is where he can come in and sort of take a patient, longer approach, right? And maybe you can hope for the best things. So I think so. I mean, I know the low end projection is, are we sure this is an NBA player? But you got a lot of good ones on that team. And so I'm sort of okay with taking that flyer on. I mean, he's maybe that positionless guy, maybe that sort of bull kind of special dude. That's a long shot, but that's within reach for him, and I'm okay with taking that sort of flyer.
What do you guys think? Should they?
Well, I didn't watch him too much, but I think I have a better player for Denver to pick instead of Poku. I think I don't know, Voya, you sent Brendan clip about him.
Yeah.
That's Borisa Simanic.
Yeah.
He is a player who played in the brother club of Olympiacos. That is the Red Star Belgrade, my club. And he is I think 22 years old, and he played 4 seasons now EuroLeague. He's much experience. He has really much more experience, and he has good shoot. He has great rebounding, great defender, and I think he'll be really basketball ready for Denver. And it's a great thing he's off radar completely, I think.
Is he looking to make the move, or are you expecting to see him drafted at any time, or I
think he is. I think he is on draft this year.
Okay, gotcha. So this is all right. That's a name. I mean, I saw the video. I can't claim. Would never claim to think I have a full scouting report from that, but it's an interesting name for us to file away.
So the thing is, first with Poku, like I'm not really. Honestly, like if they don't plan to move Bol or MPJ out of the roster, like with some of the bringing in some veteran players, I really don't. Especially, and this is kind of a double take from the Nuggets' perspective. I don't know if they need another project, like especially if they're so close to like maybe one role player. If you talk about Tillman maybe in the situation that Plumlee was in, he might not have made that mistake in the Lakers 2 game, or one of those guys that's more athletic that's just gonna chase after a player and maybe not overthink the situation. The other the other side of the coin for this take is for him. I don't know if it's really good to go to Denver if he's not gonna get any minutes and develop. Of course, like we said, the first year for him is probably a no-go on the playing. But after that, if Denver develops Bol and MPJ, he's still gonna be on the bench. So for the next 2 or 3 years, he might not even see the court. Obviously, might not even play, and it's going to go maybe like borrowed into a G League team. And as for this is also like I haven't full disclosure too is like I haven't watched all of his games and stuff. A lot of videos, a lot of talking to my friends that are plugged in Serbia. So like one of my good friends that like he's in, he knows a lot of stuff in Serbia, and like he follows a lot of this stuff. He vouches that in 3 years he should be a really a beast. The problem is there too, like what I said is just if you go into the NBA team that's really good, again it's not the player comparison, the situation comparison of how Darko Milicic went to Detroit that was ready to win a championship and he didn't have any opportunities to play, and then just kind of like that's just a domino that falls, and then everything kind of goes sideways after that, is what could potentially happen to some of these players, the project players that get drafted into Denver, if they're ready. Denver is assuming championship ready, so if
don't you wonder with Poku, like, how ready is he going to be anyway in 1 to 2 years? I mean, this is a guy that's probably going to need some time to like be around NBA strength and conditioning staffs, add some weight. I mean, he could be playing some minutes in Charlotte or what have you, but is it, how much more crucial to his development is that than, just sort of being around a winning NBA team for a little bit? I mean, there's two sides to this coin.
Exactly.
I'm not saying you're wrong or anything, but something to consider.
Obviously, that's something to think about, and it's just strange, like, because it's always that, especially now with COVID, is like Europe is in really like turmoil, and how can you travel and play? And ideally, like in a little older days, like not older, like 5-6 years ago or something, you draft a player like that, you keep him in Europe for a few years. You saw how Bogdan Bogdanovic was drafted in the first round, didn't play for a few years. Like even Jokic, stayed for a year in Serbia after he got drafted. So that's kind of would be the ideal way. But now is because, NBA is probably more consistent, and, U.S. is one country and they can probably deal with COVID a little bit better. You would think he would hop over and try to get on a team. Yeah, the issue with him is if in the offseason, if he can bulk up, and how quickly can he develop in that way. That's
because he still hasn't played at, because he was playing at like the B level,
team,
right? The B.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if he's ready to really kind of bang with NBA guys yet anyway.
He didn't even play the first National League of Greece.
Yeah.
Not mention the Euro League. There is a quite big even that Greek national first league is not really strong, because you have only two teams, that's Panathinaikos and Olympiacos, and everything else is almost garbage. Yeah,
but even for in that case, like the argument is, so even if it's not like the strongest domestic league, the thing with that is he's 17, 18. He would be playing against older guys anyway, so no matter how not quality the competition is, and even in the first Greece, like you playing 6-7 years older guys, like just physically you're gonna get used to contact more and more. You're gonna develop that way even faster. So that was a little bit of that's why he said the biggest question mark of this draft, and that's why, as I said, we wanted to start with him, kind of get it out of the way, because it's really, again, it's just unknown. Like I don't know if I would if I was in Denver shoes, just because of the championship environment right now. And it's just talking about from Denver's perspective. Maybe it would be good for him as a player, but from Denver's situation, I believe that they might be better with the fully ready player, and it just sucks. I mean, he would have been a really nice addition, and you think what dynamic him and Jokic would have. Think about the players with that kind of IQ, just.
But the only thing, man, is you just think about how quickly these things change. Right now, it's MPJ and Bull in the chamber. But how might that change, right? Whether it's trade negotiations, injuries, whatever. Yeah. So sometimes you're comfortable just adding the asset. But I think you raise valid concerns. Like maybe the best case for his development is playing right away. So there's something to that. Yeah, that's a good point, boy.
Thanks. Okay, well... I guess, do you guys have anything to add? Because I feel like also with him is just a trap, because you can talk about it forever. So, we can finish this up.
Okay.
Oh, okay, good. Because that's, again, as I said, like he's such a question mark, and it's so hard to not talk about him and speculate, because, it's one of those like Schrodinger's Poku situations of like he could be one of the best 3-4s hybrids from coming out from Europe, and then he can be like, a skinny player that just can't, catch up to the NBA. So hopefully it's the former, not the latter. So we'll see, and hopefully lands in a good situation.
And also there is a big chance he will be drafted before 22nd. So
maybe not though, man. I have to this year. Sorry, I'm interrupting you all over the place, but This year more than any, looking at these mock drafts, there's like as wide as a 15 range swing for some of these guys. I mean, some people think Poku could be late lottery. Some people think, he might go late first round. So I don't know if there's a consensus on that, but to your point, he may be off the board. I
saw Bleacher Report. Their prediction is number 15 on Portland Trail Blazers.
Could be, man. I mean, I just simply can't nail it down. So a lot of these guys I've seen all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. That's So yeah, I guess we talked about him. You wrote. We can go back to some of the guys that you kind of wrote about. There's Jalen Smith from Maryland, Desmond Bain from TCU, and those are kind of the kind of clashing choices that Denver can pick. There's a big guy that's athletic and can cover a lot of ground, and he's be potentially a backup center, or you get a already NBA ready guard that's a dead eye shooter. And we can start with those couple of guys, then we can go back to like my picks of Tillman and Josh Green. What do you think? What's your takeaway when you did the scouting for them?
Well, it's funny, right? We just had that conversation. These are two guys that every time I check a mock draft, it seems like they're up a little higher. Jalen Smith is shooting up of late, garnering some interest, and deservedly so. I was intrigued by both of these prospects. I'm no master scout, but when I watch film and I look to confirm what I sort of see as general consensus across multiple scouting reports from the people who do this work all year long, and I try to drop it in the context of what the Nuggets need. But Jalen Smith certainly appears to be a true rim protector with some potential to be a legitimate catch and shoot guy, pick and pop guy. The fit there in Denver is obvious. I don't think they've had a legitimate rim protector in the time that I've been covering this team. And anytime you can talk about a big that can space the floor, you like that fit with Jokic, right? If it ever gets to that point. Desmond Bain, you mentioned NBA-ready players. This is a 4-year senior who shot off a movement, who's strong. I mean, he's an absolute load and has a lot of like NBA ready-to-go sort of skill sets and qualities to him. The size will be an issue. He's sort of a tweener, I think, kind of like a combo guard deal. 6'6", not a super long wingspan, though. So, figuring out what position he is at the NBA, who he guards, I think those are some of the bigger question marks. But I think this guy's a stud, and I'd be very surprised if either Dallas or Miami pass on a two-way off-movement shooter like that.
Yeah, I think that you're talking about in the mock drafts, like Dallas. That's what I was saying. Like we're not gonna. He's not gonna go past Dallas. I think, especially
probably
with that type of. Yeah,
and then
with
Miami's
that type of
at 20. And couldn't you imagine what Spoelstra could do with him? So if he gets past Dallas, I don't think he gets past.
Especially that's strong of a player. Because imagine in the situations of you can plug him and Duncan Robinson in and out, just based on the nights. Because you can see Duncan a lot of times in the playoffs, he was just not playing because of defense. Imagine that situation, putting Bain in, which is a strong dude that if LeBron switches on him, he's at least not going to roll over. He's at least going to try, be something of a hindrance.
Now, if he's shooting like Duncan Robinson, then you hit a home run with the Bain pick. But to your point, that is his skill set, right? This was not a guy who was just standing still in the corners. When you look at his 3-point numbers, he was coming off of screens and coming off movement from all types of sort of variety of screens.
Yeah, that's something like we Denver need, especially if we want to go when you think about the evolution of Denver's game through the years, it was like ball is popping when the Jokic started, so it was all like jovial and it's nice and playground ball with Kenneth Faried just running around smiling, and it was pretty fun to watch, obviously. And then you go into a little bit more tame. Jokic's not trying anymore of behind three guys back passes. He's doing his he's staying in his lane, I guess, with passing. And then in the last couple of years, like from last year's playoffs to this year, it's a lot of kind of I don't want to say we want to settle for pick and roll because it's so good, but there's a lot of times we don't know what we're doing now. We don't want to develop our full offense this game. We're just going to run pick and roll and kind of go from there. And, it can get stagnant from there. So imagine if you just add a player that on a type of Duncan Robinson, Klay Thompson, obviously not on that level yet, but that it can go off screens and shoot. then all of a sudden, like, that pick and roll becomes a 3-man game, and you had MPJ with cutting, and now again we can go back to ball is popping, and it kind of in a perfect time too, with the ball arena rolling in, so that would be kind of fun to do again.
Whoa,
so
can
from
I add
those,
something?
yeah, go for it.
Oh, when you said ball arena, it sounds like a ballerina.
Yeah, every time, every single time.
I just realized. Okay, that's my input for now. I will. Good
one, Miroslav.
Well,
my name is.
So I mean,
again,
yeah, you guys chime in. I know, because the thing is, obviously, it's kind of how it was difficult for me to follow the European players with EuroLeague. It's kind of difficult for the guys to to follow college, and so that's why we're kind of, you and I are having a back and forth. And so you guys, if you have like a philosophical thing of when you hear like a, player's skill set, you can jump in and with your opinions, sure. Obviously.
Sure. I'm more in EuroLeague player, as I mentioned.
I'll go back to Borisha and Marko Simonovic is one of the guys too that I want to touch on, because they're on the end of projects. Because Jalen Smith and Bain, and which this personally my pick would be Xavier Tillman, is they're kind of a ready players. So like, we're gonna go on that, and then we're gonna go to the project players. As I'll go on to Tillman first, because I think it was Harrison that wrote the article about him, right?
It was, yep.
And you guys talked about it. I was kind of not mad. It was just funny. I was writing I was watching videos and writing the scouting report, quote unquote. And then the next day I listened to your show, and it's like, oh, you guys talk about Tillman. Okay, great. So, well, the thing is with him is obviously like my Big Ten ties with the same conference. I've seen him play live. He's huge. He's athletic, and it was kind of sad watching him against Nebraska, because we didn't really have a center last year. It was kind of a lot of 6'8" guys that are essentially forwards. Like, my friend is a small forward shooter, and he had to play a 4, and it was really, not something that he was used to do. So it was kind of, sucked to watch that kind of. So he was really good. I mean, he had a double-double, a couple of blocks against us. So it was in that 13-10 range. With him, what I like is, again, Michigan State ready player, smart coach. That's one of the big things when you go in college. I think one of the people mentioned when you was a guest on your show that, again, he has a family already. So again, it's just, with these drafts, it's kind of funny what people already like drawn, but family guy already, and he's ready to, I guess, it's a different motivation when you're competing for your family, not just for cash. So that's one of the things, basketball-wise, a high efficiency around the rim. I think he has a 68% off the pick and roll, and like 70% around, catching on the roll and doing that. His jump shooting form isn't terrible, so it's not a broken shot. It has a good form, so which with our good coaches, player development coaches, he can be honed in, so he could become a pick and pop and even a stretch 5. What I'm looking at him right now is as a backup, so it's obviously not picking a starter. I'm looking at that position with, if you put in him and Millsap on the bench, and you decide to go with Barton on the bench for offense, it becomes a very interesting pick and roll game, because Barton can handle Monte with them. Like, imagine just the intelligence of all those 4 guys. And then for me, even in that situation, I would even add maybe PJ Dozier as that 10th player. So you have a couple of guards, a tall guard and a smaller guard, both really good off the roll. You have a couple of bruisers that are defensively intelligent. So he's not an athletic guy that's going to jump out of the gym and block a bunch of shots, because he's catching up to people, and he's so quick and off his feet, but he's always in a position. So again, I think someone mentioned again, he's like a comparison is
Millsap-ish, right? Yeah.
Millsap, it's funny to say now after 20 years of his career, but Udonis Haslem, like a little bit more talented and polished Haslem, like high motor, high energy. His like inside work is really good. Like, he has a good, up and under, good roll, good post game, which again, I imagine with Jokic, what you saw what Plumlee did for his game with passing and stuff. Imagine what he could do with Jokic to learn. So obviously deficiencies are athleticism and stuff like that. It's, again, that's why he's not a top 5 pick. Maybe size, he's 6'8", which is like 210 centimeters, 13 centimeters in metric.
But he's long, right?
Yeah, he's long. He has a 7'1", I think 215 wingspan, and big size, so like post defender.
Because I was scared at first, man. Because anytime you hear, to me, this sounds like a projected center, and then when you hear a center's only 6'8", it doesn't sound like size on the interior, but he's stout, he's strong, and he's long, so that's a little deceiving. So that's, you were just talking about Bain as almost sort of a finishing player in Jokic ball, a shooter. And I think you hit the nail on the head with Tillman, a Jokic ball player in a different way. Not much of a finisher, but his quick decision-making, his passing off the short roll. This is a guy that could fit into some balls-popping possessions quite nicely. And then defensively, you love the idea of a Millsap understudy, someone who's in the right place, someone who raises the sort of the floor of the team defense and even the team defense IQ. So it's intriguing. He's not super athletic, and he can't. I don't want to say he can't shoot. He didn't shoot in college. He didn't. So it was like 0.6 attempts per game from three.
Yeah.
So hard to see him as a 4 yet. But you've watched more than I, and I know a lot of folks in Nuggets Twitter are very excited about the idea of Tillman at 22.
Yeah. So the thing with his jump shot, I read down, so it's a bit like a flat-footed stiff jumper. But again, that's something. So like I always look at how what the elbow form is and how the release is. Like where is he releasing it at? Does he have a hitch? Does that look off? Like, because again, we saw guys. Everyone brings up Sean Marion is like, oh, look at him, he's an NBA player with the. Well, you can't compare like some of these. These are outliers that are super athletic and they make up a lot of shooting deficiencies by that, and then obviously just set the jump shot for when they're in the NBA. With him, I think it's workable. I don't think it's just Plumlee, you see his jump shot. It's not something that's that can be fixed. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. With him, like he has so again with college threes, he didn't shoot much, and those would be. I'm not saying maybe a stretch 5 as a 3-point shooter because it's obviously longer threes, but enough is off the key, like those rolls that Jokic does and just pops up and a free throw jumper. If you can make that consistently, with Monte on the roll and PJ, just to have that for defenders to second guess themselves on that action. So that's something that I'm looking at. And again, I'm more always for like the IQ guys. It's something I value like more with players of if he can fit in, like if he's not just lost out there, and if he's good if it's coachable, if the guy's coachable and intelligent, I think that goes a long way. And we kind of, Jokic is the primary example of super talented and has a feel. So many things that people were taking away from him, athletically and everything. But, this IQ, no speed, but intelligent trumps that because he knows when to turn it on and what areas to attack. And that's when I wasn't fast when I was playing. So my, the advice you always get from a coach in that situation is you want to be efficient in your movement. So you want to read the defender's position. You want to get into his, pick the spots when to get your foot in. So because you have the ball, you have the control. So a lot can be done with the body in one step.
Sure.
Like speed is obviously valuable, but
by the way, this guy's athletically limited. But it's not to say he's physical. Like this is still a specimen. This is still a strong, capable NBA body. So
athletically limited, as in like NBA standards.
Not
he's
leaper,
not.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. He's not a. I don't know what pick is like that kind of like
Fareed even, sure, right?
Yeah. That's like explosive jump or something. But everything else he makes up because again with Millsap, that's the perfect example. He's not an athletic guy. Even when he was in Utah and Atlanta, he's not an athletic dude. But when he knows when to put himself in position, how to read the court, then defensively he becomes, because when you have a body like it's a 6'8" small body, but when you think you beat him and he's running in front of you, that throws offensive players off, and that strong keeping vertical and everything, that's something he was also doing. So that's my pick. That's why I went a little long on him, just because I like him a lot. Another guy is I can mention, I think you guys talked about him. I don't know much about this guy because it was in Pac-12, but Josh Green is someone I might be even looking over Desmond Bain, just from like upside potential. Like he's kind of ready, correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of this, he's a 3-and-D guy, like plays good defense, and he's taller and longer than Desmond Bain.
Yes.
He has a decent jump shot, so it's not obviously to the level of Bain. But with Bain, for me, it was that hitch that he has a weird release, a little bit slower.
Yeah.
That in the NBA, like that split second is something that might decide of
sure.
if you're at 45% or 35%. Because
I always think of Jimmer Fredette, right? Like, do you think he forgot how to shoot, or do you think it got harder for him to get his shot off?
No, it was. I think it was the got harder. First, he didn't have like 300 attempts a game from half court because obviously defenders were coming up on him, and then that was the thing. It just similar thing is with Doug McDermott. Like I've watched him in college as well live. Like he was amazing, and he has that. With him I'm not gonna get into that, but like he was the same way. It's like he didn't forget to shoot. He was shooting in 40s, like in threes. It's just that it's different game. Like it's obviously distance has changed, timing has changed. Like you think you're open, but you might not be. And so that's kind of that's why what Duncan Robinson does is so amazing, and because he's coming in from lower divisions and then Michigan, and then he's able to adapt. But that was probably the reason why he wasn't picked at all with athleticism. So. Josh Green. So I don't know. Have you saw any of his like stuff? He has a little bit of trouble finishing, but I think he might be a decent pick at it.
Yeah, I wrote the Josh Green profile. I've seen some video, read some reports. So we talked about archetypes a fair amount this podcast. If you're someone who feels like you've longed for that traditional 3-and-D guy, 3-and-D wing, which is a bit of a stretch for Josh Green, but guard kind of wing, he's your guy. Really strong off-ball defender, very good on-ball defender. Upside of the protection, 1 through 3 defensive versatility. So, I think Gary's a great example of a stellar defender who probably can't get out there and guard forwards. There are going to be some forwards that Green can guard. I think if he's as good a defender as all the scouts seem to think, there is definitely catch-and-shoot potential. I would say that's the biggest swing factor for him. If this guy can defend very well, but he doesn't put the ball on the floor much, he can't create furthers, and he can't shoot, it kind of sounds like a Torrey Craig situation a little bit, where Malone would have to sort of choose between offense and defense again. So there's talk that he might be able to develop into a good slasher, and he's got some pull-up touch. I think all of that stuff is icing on the cake if you get it. The meat here, what you need from him to be a great pick at 22 is consistency from outside, because if he's a catch-and-shoot threat with his defensive versatility, this is that 3-and-D wing that Denver hasn't had.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear, because I when I saw his videos, like he, again, with the jump shot, like he has that form. Athletic, really athletic. He could bulk up too, which would be interesting. So that again, those are kind of the players that. This is why I'm excited about this draft, even though it's not strong per se. But these kind of players that Denver hasn't had in their rotations, like they've kind of been picking either like those kind of 3-and-D guys off the scrap heap, or they're picking players that are necessary for for the project or something. So when that kind of brings us to, and I'm gonna plug in guys for this because. Milan mentioned Boris Simonic, and he's from Red Star. So with him is like I think he could be really great with Jokic. He's one of those the guys that we talk about. We mentioned like Bjelica as like a stretch 4. So he's a great jump shot. Like he's really good transition jump shot, pure touch. I think he can block. He's athletic in that way too. Like he had really some amazing blocks in the EuroLeague, like when he was young too. He can guard 1 through 4. He moves his feet well, so he can actually push the guards out, from pick and roll. He can get him out to the half court. The thing with him is, and Milan watched a lot more games, obviously, because over there in Red Star, from what I hear from him is that it's a little bit of a, I don't know how to translate this. Is we call it just a head problem, but it's not a. I think it's.
We would say head case over here.
Well, I guess. But the thing is that he doesn't. I don't think he has a good contract that he got and never lived up to it, and lived up to to so much potential, and it kind of sucks because what again I haven't seen him, so I don't know. With what I see on the videos is amazing. What he can do is something that Denver can use right away. It just that I feel from what I hear is just that practicing, not taking maybe seriously. It's kind of a lax mood of towards basketball. So Milan, what were your opinions on him? Because we kind of talked about.
Basically, he need to play with more the word I want to say I can't say, but you all know what I'm thinking. He need to have a little more courage on the court. That is his problem, not the training. I just want to say he need to play with more. What?
Testicular fortitude.
Yeah.
Pulling.
But he would be great for Denver. 6'11", 210. He was the next generation tournament MVP. That's the EuroLeague for juniors, or how that's how you say in it
would be like a younger,
sure.
It's
like
I guess like
yeah.
Like you have a same, kind of like imagine if Nuggets had a under 18, under 19 team and they played, NBA league kind of stuff.
He was the EuroLeague MVP, so basically for younger version.
For younger, yeah.
Gotcha.
So he has he's 3-time ABA League champion. He has great potential. He's only 22 years old. So he will be really ready for the Nuggets to play right away. Maybe with Jokic and with spending some time in the NBA, he will develop that how would say courage to play. There is a game when you don't see him on the court. He's afraid to go to shoot. He's open. He need to shoot. He missed that split of the second and do something stupid, or go overpassing or stuff like that.
But the talent's there. The talent's there.
For me, for me, better than Poku.
I'm watching this video right now.
Talent-wise and everything, he.
No, yeah, of course. I mean, he has like 3-4 years of over Poku. So, but that's kind of similar. I mean, that's that type.
And he's young.
Yeah.
22 years. You can play him right away.
I guess like that's someone. I mean, because I can't like really. That's someone I can't vouch on as like, oh, this would be the great. But if a project is something that Denver might be interested in as like a more of a ready player, because that might be one of those guys you come in and change of scenery. You know how it is. Like we talk about Gary, that might be a situation with him that if he gets traded and he changes scenery, he might just get out of his own head and start playing better. So with him, like I wonder if going over to the U.S., change of scenery, being with Jokic. Vlatko, I think, is like very like good for the locker room, especially for our type of like. He's one of those like you see him how he's like very fun-loving guy, and I think that's why Jokic loves him, because like gets him out of his shell.
We don't speak much about Vlatko, no one does. We need to. He will be monster in Denver. I have a feeling.
Well, I guess I love him as like even as a presence, because that's with your like best player, you need, especially with someone that just doesn't exude as much of energy as Jokic does, and because I think that's one of those things we always talk about, Brendan, here is with Jokic, like there's a lot of like stuff that's obviously known about him, but a lot of assumptions that are drawn from U.S. media just by visually looking at him on the court, but not understanding like Serbians and how they are. So with him, there's a lot of stuff that even though sometimes you guys like when we listen to it, it's like, oh, maybe that's not really like what's going on. And with him, he's competitive. It's just that he doesn't show it as much.
Right.
And with Vlatko, and then also with like he's fun loving and everything, but with Vlatko, I think he has that. I think you might be the only ones that touched upon that when Harrison wrote that, when he can get in his ear and just like flip that switch in Jokic and like tell him something.
They're legit friends, and often when I'm trying to get a sense of what Jokic is thinking about something, it's a little easier to ask Vlatko, because Jokic doesn't love to talk about it. Vlatko is the guy who told me exactly what you're telling me right now, that he is a lot more competitive than you guys give him credit for, and like it's not surprising at all that he started throwing weight around after the games. Vlatko was a part of those sessions. As you can see, but that this was a guy who maybe he didn't stew over it in the same ways. Jokic seems to have a sort of healthy life basketball balance in terms of mentally where he's at. Yeah. But you better believe he like notices and cares that maybe he came up short against Anthony Davis when the team needed him. That stuff matters to him. And I think Jokic having Vlatko around is great for Jokic's mentality. Someone he can relate to, someone he can literally just speak to without such a thick language barrier. And then, like you said, I think he's the guy who gets in his ear sometimes and says, hey, man, like, forget all this noise. This is who you are. And So, the Flacco presence, I think, is a big impact in Denver.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Again, same goes with if they pick Poku, that might also be a positive aspect of having those three guys together and getting him under their wings and getting him working out. Because if someone can bulk up another player, it's Vlatko.
And to your point, the expectations would probably be different for him in the States. Like you talked about how he's that's sort of maybe the perspective on him is what he is as opposed to what he could have been. Where here, the expectations are lower. We may not know all about what he could have been. Yeah. And he can sort of refocus on mentally just being a basketball player.
Yeah, exactly. That would be interesting. And that would be really fun to see him, Borisha and Jokic together. Again, because he's athletic too. Like he can catch alley-oops and stuff. So that would be really interesting. One of those parallel universes where that happens, that works out. We're gonna finish up. Just we know we have you for an hour, so there's a cool question that I want to answer. Is like, what player do we need in this draft? If you can create a prototype we listed a bunch of players. So you can, let's do a Frankenstein experiment of pick every skill set the best skill set of each player and make a player that will be like a championship bringer to Denver.
All right. Well, I think you want Jalen Smith's rim protection. I think you want Desmond Bain's experience shooting off movement.
Yep.
What are you thinking?
I think you want Josh's green athleticism on that, like quickness off the feet. So you said at that shooting, I'm gonna try to pick like the best possible shooter there because Bain is one, but I think maybe Boris's shooting might be like his pure form. You saw the videos, like how it looks. That's like the Euro smooth, Serbian smooth touch. Tillman's post movements and like defensive like IQ.
Definitely.
That would be that would be. And then I guess the frame.
How tall is Poku?
Is he cracking 7?
7 feet tall.
Is he cracking that?
With a 7'3" wingspan.
I think so. That's 215. I think.
I'll take Poku's height.
Yeah, that would be. That combo, and I guess, and also Jalen's body size if we're gonna go with.
We should take Poku's tongue, so any draft player.
Perfect.
Can speak.
That's smart. Very smart. Very smart.
7 feet.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, we should wrap this up because this was really fun. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Yeah, go for it.
I would just like to go through my scout report.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Empty.
So I just want to say, like usually, I don't read about draft until a couple of days before the draft, and then I go through bleachers reports like projections from top 4, top 30, and then I hear the name that's creating a lot of buzz that's outside of top 5 or outside of the lottery or top 10, and that's usually the guy the Nuggets pick. And in the morning when I wake up, I read the Nuggets pick blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh, I heard that name. Oh, it's MPJ. It's Ball. So that's why I'm not reading. I'm not superstitious. I'm just little stitious, to say like Michael Scott. So that's my superstitious. I'm not gonna read about draft until the day before the draft. And the Nuggets will pick something that I heard of.
Brendan, imagine if you didn't have to do all this scouting stuff and you just wake up to the draft. That would be the better solution.
Yeah, man. Okay. Well, scouting stuff's hard. I've got all the respect for the people who do that full time. And that's what it really takes, by the way, to when I'm offering these insights into these guys, it's about how they fit in Denver. These insights are the work of people who watch countless hours of film, and it's, as an NBA guy, it takes a lot of energy to commit to college as well as difficult. So my hat's off and my hands in thanks to those who do that work.
Yeah, it's great. So I would like to thank everyone for thanking for sticking with us in English. We had a bunch of comments and I appreciate it. As I said, what I said, Brendan, in Serbian, we want to, we're kind of flipping between English and Serbian in the off season. We're trying to get as best as guests as we can get, and if they're English speakers, so be it. And when the season starts, we'll focus more on analysis in Serbian language, and there'll be a lot of hype trains going on and let's go Nuggets chants on this podcast. So I appreciate you coming here. This was amazing. I love talking to you. I love talking to all you guys in DNVR, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I guess I don't know if you can say anything in Serbian, but our chant here is when we finish, idemo Nuggetsi.
Idemo Nuggetsi.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to say that, but I'm
Let's
with
go
you.
Nuggets.
And I just want to say, anytime, I'm happy to do the show anytime, except next time Miroslav can't duck me, okay? He's got
we got it. He's big timing you, and he wants to show up at the national television.
He will be trolled.
Remember this when he's groveling for a Friday appearance. I will when he's trying to happen.
I was just about to say that.
Just kidding. Much love, Miroslav. You're still the homie.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter. We're posting. I'm posting on my Instagram a lot of when upcoming shows. We're gonna have a couple next week. I think we'll have a Miloš Jovanović from one of the Serbian podcasts, like Šesta Lično or Sixth Personal, and we'll have another special episode on Thursday. If the schedule holds, we're gonna talk about some of the special moments and like important moments in modern playoff history. We're gonna want to break, kind of shake it up with all this like draft coverage and trade rumors and everything, with a little bit of casual Thursday for us in this case. So thank you everyone. Like, share, subscribe, that kind of stuff with the Mislav likes to say, and have a great week. Pozdrav, ciao.
Ciao.
Bog.